Hi everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm excited to do another round of horror reads. This time I'm bringing you a space horror book, not just sci-fi horror, but space horror. Everyone is constantly asking me for recommendations on this subgenre, which I love too, and I'll be honest, they're hard to find, but I got one here. It's really good. All that being said, let's get into the video. So I should probably just start with the space horror book, and that is Ship of Fools by Richard Paul Russo. This is set in the far future where humanity has basically forgotten their past on Earth. It's just a memory or a legend at this point. And we particularly follow the crew of a particular ship where they are going about without a real direction or purpose. They have really forgotten what their mission is. They are a generational ship, so pretty much everyone on the ship has lived there their entire lives, and they really don't know what they're trying to do. Are they trying to colonize a planet and find a home? Are they explorers? They just don't know. And there is just a lot of discontent happening on the ship. The story is told from the perspective of one of the officers, and you find out that there is a lot of tension between the different groups. There basically is a class system happening where there is the lower class, the working class, that very much resents the people that are in charge of the ship, who are, of course, getting privileges that they do not have access to. In this future, there is a form of Catholicism, and you really get to see how these religious guidelines are affecting everyone's life, how they are trying to find purpose through God, through religion, and this book makes a lot of good commentary on it. Whether you are Christian, religious, or otherwise, I definitely think that this book is well balanced, and it's not overly critical, but it definitely provides some good commentary on the zealots around Catholicism or Christianity, and I think it was very well done in this book. And this book also has some interesting forms of diversity I don't see otherwise. The main character has a disformed figure, so he has amputated arms and legs and has a lot of mechanical pieces to his body. And you also have another character he's friends with who is a small person who is referred to as a dwarf. I don't truly know how good this representation is, but I thought it was interesting because it's something I don't see otherwise. You often don't see main characters that have imperfect bodies and are described as being not necessarily physically beautiful by today's traditional standards. And so this book becomes space horror when they come across a ship that appears to be alien. And until this point, humans believe that they really are the only ones out there. They have not found any proof of extraterrestrial life. And so they go and they find this ship, they start to explore it. It is very foreign. It is like nothing they have seen before. And they potentially wander into a ship that might actually be haunted. The scenes on the ship are very creepy. And as they go to explore it, things start to go wrong. There are accidents, there are deaths, and it just seems like there is something that doesn't want them there. And I love those aspects. This book is written in a very sparse style, and I think it works very well because it just lends itself to that eerie feeling. And this book definitely has quite a exciting build up, and if anything, if I had a complaint, it's the fact that I think I wanted a little bit more from the ending of it, but it was very fun. So if you like space horror, if you love those kind of movies and the premise sounds good, definitely check this one out. In my opinion, it's a bit underrated, probably just because it's a bit of an older book, but I loved it. I thought it was very immersive, very atmospheric, and again, makes really great commentary on people just trying to find their purpose in life, whether it be through religion or otherwise. And yeah, I thought it was a really smart book. Highly recommend. Next up, we have The Loop by Jeremy Robert Johnson. This is a book that is set in a small town that is near a biotech plant. They are doing some kind of experiment. Something goes terribly wrong, and there is a form of an outbreak that causes the people in this town to act violently. This story is told from the perspective of a group of young teenagers that need to get out and survive. This basically reads like a really, really cheesy B movie. It's full of action. It doesn't have very much character development, and the characters themselves are really annoying. These are characters, or specifically teenagers, that are obsessed with sex, and they're vulgar and annoying, and I just want them all to die. If you can't tell, I honestly did not like this book. I know other people enjoy it, so I'll say I read it and I just was not in the mood for this kind of a book. If that sounds fun, of course, check it out for yourself, but honestly, I found that this book was pretty hollow and just didn't have a lot of heart to it. And yeah, it just left me pretty annoyed that I finished it, because I probably should have DNF'd it, but it was pretty short and I just flew through it and decided to finish it up so that I could review it for you all. Moving on to a book I did enjoy, I also read Meat by Joseph Delancey, and this is set in a small town where there is a meat production plant, and the people of this town are obsessed with meat. They really associate it with good health, being prosperous, and it has just honestly become like a religion to the people that work there. And the story is told from a few different perspectives. We get to see people that are working in the plants, and not all of them are really happy with their role, and realize that they possibly have feelings about this that go to the contrary of the status quo of what everyone else in the village believes about the meat. And so this is a horror book that really leans into the horror of true life meat production. You get it described in very vivid detail how the calves and cows are butchered, and it's very dark, very disturbing. If you are bothered by gross out horror, this one might be hard to read. And certainly I had trouble dealing with meat, and I was cooking while I was listening to the audiobook. So keep that in mind. It's definitely not the kind of book you want to read while you're like eating a piece of steak, but it was just engrossing as a story. I loved the town's obsession, how far they were willing to go to protect their meat production, and just crucify anyone who tries to, again, go against the status quo and actually, say that maybe we don't need to eat meat. This book at times felt a little bit judgmental or preachy about vegetarianism or even veganism, and I didn't necessarily like that aspect, that I felt like the author was getting a little bit too much into the story. But besides that, I really did enjoy this one. I think I wanted a little bit more from the ending, but overall I thought this one was just an engrossing story, also a gross story, but in a very positive way. Really liked it, and I think that this will appeal to people who like Tender is the Flesh, because while it's a different premise, it once again it deals with the horrors of meat production and meat consumption, and it just took it in a different direction here, but I really did like it. Finally, I read some young adult horror, and that was Horrid by Katrina Leno. And this is a story of a young girl who has recently lost her father, and so her and her mother move back to her mother's hometown, specifically to live in the house that her mother grew up in. And as you would expect, there is more going on, and the house itself seems to bring on a unsettling feeling for both the mother and daughter. The mother starts to act differently and just seems very bothered to be back. She has a history there, and there's a reason she left that house. There's a reason she left the town. Her own daughter starts to wonder if she's seeing things in the house. She thinks that she might see something upstairs. The lights are acting weird. She starts to smell flowers, specifically roses, everywhere, and that ties into the story. And the story, of course, spirals into a horror story that is possibly supernatural and possibly psychological. And for a young adult book, which I've always said I'm a little bit iffy when it comes to the age range, this one actually worked really well for me. It actually does play into a lot of the tropes of YA. So you have the mother-daughter relationship, the child not wanting to move to a different town because she was from LA, having to make new friends and all of that. There is a love interest. But for the most part, despite falling into those tropes and being a story I've read before, this one felt fresh. I thought it was actually very atmospheric. I was very much invested in it. I thought it was just very creepy, not knowing what was going on with the roses. And overall, I really liked it, which is really nice to say. If I had a complaint, it's again the fact that the ending just left me a little bit unsatisfied, which seems to be a theme in this video. Maybe I'm getting pickier about endings in books, but I just found that there was too much going on. There was too many little twists and turns, and to me it felt felt a little bit messy or muddled or cluttered, but I still overall enjoyed the book, and despite not having a perfect ending, that does not prevent me personally from really enjoying the ride. And like I said, for a young adult book, this one really held up. And I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's interested in reading more YA horror. This is a perfectly good book to pick up. Again, very atmospheric, a little bit of a gothic-y feel. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed this reading experience for sure. So that is it for this video. Let me know down below of the books I talked about, which ones are you most interested in picking up? And if you have any recommendations for other space horror books, let me know, because this girl wants to read them. Otherwise, I would love for you to consider subscribing to my channel if you're new here. I do read a lot of horror as well as thriller, science fiction, and fantasy. You can help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, sharing it around online, and hitting that little notification bell. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.